welcome to another episode of Racheal Fosu TV. Today we have with us Keith Jefferson.
Yes.
Who has been caring for his grandmother for 5 years, caregiving, I should say, for her. And it's been quite an experience that we will talk about. Keith, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Well, I'm 56 years old. I've been in New Jersey for over 20 years. I was relocated here originally from Pennsylvania, where I started working at Prudential, and then my job relocated me here. And then I left Prudential and went to City. I coach. Been doing that for over 20 years. I run my town travel basketball. Been doing that for 15 years. And that includes grades from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Oh, wow.
And I am in IT. I've been doing that since I graduated college with a computer science degree.
Oh, nice. So
from the University of Pittsburgh.
Fellow technologist. Okay, that's good. My son is starting travel basketball for the first time.
Awesome.
So that's going to be crazy, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. So tell us a little bit about your grandmother, and tell us maybe even before she got ill, how she came to be or who she was before.
Well, she's originally from North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina. And at 96, she used to walk everywhere. So she's very active. Wow. Extremely active. She walks better than me till this day. And she's pretty strong. In fact, I live in the woods out here in Mount Olive, North Jersey. And basically, there's a lot of times we chop up woods and have log woods. She can grab one and hold another one and balance it on her at 96, and she loves to be outside. So she'll be outside, she'll be gardening and stuff like that. So the area she likes, the area where she's at. But she's a city girl. Really. Yeah, from Asheville. She went to D.C. She lived in D.C. for a long time. My mother pleaded with her to come up to Yonkers, and then my mom had left and went to Arizona, and my grandmother had been staying in Yonkers since my mom had left, and then my mom had passed, and my grandmother was still there. And then she had been there until 5 years ago when I went and got her.
Wow. Now, you were telling me a little story maybe you want to share about how you first came to find out she might be ill.
I first found out she might be ill about 5 years ago when the police called me. The Yonkers police had called me, and she had been complaining about her landlord stealing, coming into her apartment and stealing stuff. And she had chains and pins all over the place to indicate where they came and whatever. But, the police officer said to me, have you ever thought your grandmother was dementia? She have a full psych about her. And I said, to me, she does. For the most part, that's what I thought.
Right.
So that was the first sign of it. And then she usually would call me and check in with me if she had gone somewhere. And this one time she didn't. And I had gotten a little bit more concerned because I had that conversation with the police officer. Right. And I realized if she doesn't call, I really don't have any way to find out where she's at. I don't have any person to come tell me where she's at or who she's been with. Wow. So I really got nervous and stuff. And I had actually, right before I had left and stuff, I had asked the pastor to pray for me. It was on a Sunday, and right after church, I drove up there. And then we started talking about her moving in with me. Wow.
What a story. Yeah, it's so weird how you don't know when that moment is coming.
No, you absolutely
You just don't know when that moment is coming. For some people, you may get a diagnosis and then, maybe a little bit, but you just still don't know when that moment is coming. So do you now caregive for her by yourself? Is it with the help of other people? How does that? Tell us a little bit more about that.
The people in my neighborhood, because she's very active. Like I said, she walks 3 miles in probably 3-4 days, every 3 days, about 10 miles a week she walks. And this is just walking from my house to the main road, and that's about 2.5 miles, just one way. So she would meet people on the way, my neighbors, she would meet them. And my neighbors actually extend their hand and take her places. One of the neighbors met her at church, so she has a lot of people at church that really helps me. They'll bring her to church, they'll bring her back home from church, they'll take her to Bible study, they'll take her to some community nights and stuff. So the Bud Lake Chapel over there in Mount Olive has been fabulous as far as helping me out and keeping in touch with her and also helping her adjust to her new spot.
And isn't that something? Because we don't often think about taking care of a person who's able to walk 10 miles, in a week very comfortably and chop wood. You don't think that you're caregiving for somebody who seems to be so able-bodied.
No.
But this is a different sort of illness, and it still has a lot of things that happen as a result of it. So tell me a little bit about how you've changed through this process, right? Because this is really about caregivers and about how you change from when you start doing it to now. You've been doing it for 5 years. God bless you. Tell us how that's changed you.
Well, I'm more aware of listening. So I kind of listen to what she doesn't say, and I kind of listen to what she says repeatedly.
Okay.
Because initially when she would say something, I would jump at it and do it, and then she says, no, I don't want to do that.
Oh, wow.
And I just rearranged my whole schedule so you could do this. You told me you wanted to do this yesterday.
Right.
And now you say you don't. So I put a test to her. I said, if you don't tell me 3 times, I'm not going to do it. So that's our challenge. So sometimes she doesn't get the 3 times.
Okay.
So that's when I have to listen.
Okay.
So when I hear her going off on her tangents and stuff and say, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that. She did ask me that. She did ask me could she speak to so-and-so or her cousin or something like that, or my brother or my sister.
Wow.
So, then I'll try to make arrangements so she can talk to him while I have the phone, because now she loses the phone a lot because they're smaller.
Right.
She's used to having something more.
And you were saying she really wants to have a phone.
Yeah, she really wants to have a phone.
What is her intent for the phone?
Well, she wants to have a particular phone in the house that has her name on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay. So it's hers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when people would call her, they would see it's Betty Davis. Yeah. And her name is Betty Davis, like the actress.
Oh, wow.
So she gets a lot of people that are actually commenting on the fact that she's an actress.
So she enjoys that.
Yes.
That's interesting. So let's say obviously I know she's 96, but clearly she's pretty strong.
Yes.
Let's say you had to do this for another 10 years. What does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? How do you make it through that?
I think I just need to be able to schedule more time with us. A lot of times it's about doing a task. When we were remote, I would go see her and we would go out and have something to eat, or we would have a day plan. Okay. So because we hustle and bustle a lot of times, those day times, they become fewer, even though she's right next to me.
Right.
So I just need to pay more attention to those times when we can sit down and speak. Because she likes to talk and she likes to tell me a lot of stuff. Because she says, Keith, I can tell you anything. And
I think you're right. Because as caregivers, we kind of get lost in all of the things we have to do, and we can sometimes miss the quality time, is I think what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And it's because there's so many tasks you have to do for the person, and you have to work and you have to do whatever else, that you're kind of just so focused on getting everything done that you actually don't do a lot of quality time, which in hindsight for me, I cherish those memories that we have, and I write about some of those in the book, of crazy times when we ended up, just doing something that didn't have to do with a chore.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, and I can see why that would be interesting. Now let's turn a little bit to a funny story, or something where we talked about this a little bit, something that, makes you laugh. It's crazy. It's always crazy when you're caregiving, but something that still makes you laugh as a result of that. Tell us a little story.
Now, I'm sure my wife wouldn't think this is funny,
right.
And I don't really laugh at it. But the situation, if you come back from it, is kind of funny in a sense. My wife and my grandmother, when they first came, they would get along awesome. They would go up to the casino because my grandmother would say she wanted to go to the casino to hand out little packets and, pamphlets to tell people to believe in Jesus. But she really wanted to go there and see the people and gamble a little bit. Okay. So she was ready to leave, and my wife still had some coins left in the slot machine. Okay. So my wife wanted to run to the restroom, and she had told my grandmother, just finish out and, just turn the slot machine. Well, as she was turning the slot machine, she won. Oh, wow. So my wife had came out before she had won, and she said, did you want to sit down? She said, no, you could go. And she pulled a slot and she won right there. Wow. So when she won, she felt that
finders keepers.
Yes, yes. So
wow,
that didn't go over too well.
No, and that's interesting, right? Because when you're caregiving, the interpersonal relationships within the home change, right? Because that person is some of themselves, and some of the illness has an impact on who they are. And so then it becomes a challenge of trying to navigate that and see what is still the person you used to know, and then what about that person is a part of the illness, and trying to separate those two out. And that can be challenging to do sometimes because, I tell a story about my husband taking advantage of a bell that we gave him. And, I'm convinced until this day that he took advantage of the bell because it was like, okay, ring the bell when you need something. But all of a sudden, the bell's ringing all the time. Eventually, I had to take it away because I'm like, dude, you're abusing this privilege, right? Like, you can't do this. I'm not running every 2 seconds. So, trying to decipher, did he need help or was he just overusing it? At a certain point, I was like, game over. No more bell. Call me if you need me. So I can understand that. You talked a little bit about your network from church. Are there other resources or networks that you use or things that maybe help you through this caregiving process? Do you take time out for Keith?
Well, yes, I do take time out for Keith. I'm involved in the community, and I'm also involved at church, in choir rehearsal, and Hoops for Hopes, and basketball in a sense. So that outlet allows me to release and get some of myself back. I also go to the spa, and I relax. I go to the steam, the sauna, jacuzzi, and I relax, and when I'm not doing the basketball stuff, I try to do that at least once a day.
Good. Yes. Oh, you are better than me. I've got to get to that point.
Once a day for a couple of hours.
That's awesome.
Yes, and that actually helps.
Do that out there. Do it.
That actually helps me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I've got to get there. I make myself try to go maybe once a week, but I've got to get to a better point because we do really have to care for ourselves, and as caregivers, we forget that.
Yes.
There's so much that seems to be pressing about the person that you're caregiving for that you sometimes forget that if you, the critical link, do not continue to take care of yourself, then they're at risk even more so. God forbid something should happen to you.
Right.
And that's a very real thing out there. I experienced it, and I write about that in the book as well. So it's important, and I'm glad to hear you say that because I don't think a lot of people do that. That's really good. So what would be on your wish list if there was something you would say Keith would like, if I had to do this another 10 years, what would be on your wish list that will help you through it? Anything else that comes to mind?
Well, she probably would need a phone.
Oh, jeez. That phone.
She would need an old-fashioned phone stuck in her room with her name on it.
Wow.
That would work. And I guess that would probably help her a lot. But I still see she would probably complain because it didn't look like the other phone or something like that.
Wow.
That she would find something wrong with it. So I just think using the resources that are in front of us. We tend not to, because what we do is we try to take on everything ourselves.
Right.
And when people actually do extend a hand to either take her someplace or pick her up, just don't boo-hoo it away,
Right.
Take them up on it, because those 5, 10, 20 minutes is probably some time that you probably need.
Right.
I know when I was going away this past weekend and there was no one there to watch over for, I was feeling kind of guilty. And that was something that I had to fight with until I had talked to some people, and they said, you need to go away. This will be good for you.
Right.
You need to do this.
Yeah.
And because that reassurance, it helped me, because all during the day there was another disaster or pre-disaster.
Right.
Something in my head that I was making worse,
Wow.
That moment that she started having a little issues with, oh, you stole my money. Oh, you stole my money. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's very real. The guilt of leaving them at all.
Yes.
The fact that if they feel safe with you and they know you're leaving, they're going to start to do things to make sure you stay. I've experienced that, and that's exactly what you're saying. And you have to battle all of that to still be able to understand that you need to take that time away. And it's a struggle.
Yes.
It is a real struggle. Now, how has your faith strengthened, grown, or maybe gone in the opposite direction? I don't know. But how has your faith played out in this process?
Absolutely. This past weekend, it came to fruition. I actually had to say, I have to trust God.
Yes.
I can't think that I'm the person that's going to do everything. I have to trust God.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did. I have monitors all around my house and stuff like that. So I just turned it over to God, and less in me.
Right.
And I said, everything is going to work out. And it actually worked out. There was an event that she had to go to that evening. They called me up. She wasn't answering and stuff. I was able to open the door remotely.
Oh, wow.
And they were able to call for her. She wanted to go. So this was an event that she was wanting to go to. And she just didn't see them. So they were able to tell me when they were bringing her back. So I was able to open up the door for her and stuff. So she was independent again.
Right.
And that when they lose the independence that's when I see her acting out in the ways.
I agree with you completely. I told you a little story about me, and that really is important, and good to hear you using technology to be able to do that, right? Give her some level of independence, which I hadn't thought about, but we also didn't have the Ring doorbells back then. So, but that's a great point. And trying to think through how we can use technology to help further some of that. That's an excellent point. So what's the best advice that you would give to someone who's just starting to caregive?
I think what I let them know is they would actually need to listen to what the wants are of the person they're actually giving the care to. Okay. And really, really understand what they really want, and just take more time with them. Don't let them feel like they are losing their independence. Right? Try to get them to do what they normally do. Keep the schedule the same. My grandma and I, we go to the gym twice a week, Thursdays and Tuesdays. So I try to keep those schedules the same, keep the time the same. And when we were getting work done in the house, when she wasn't leaving from the house to go to the senior center every day, it was becoming an issue, and she was acting out more. So I would have to take her back to the house, stay at the house, wait for her to come back home, then leave the house because we couldn't live in the house while all the work was being done. Wow. But just trying to make sure we can keep the things the same as much as you can, so that they don't get distracted, or because change is going to happen, and they can't handle change that well at this age. Right.
Wow, those are great points. Anything else you'd like to add that I may not have asked? Ask me. I don't know. Anything comes to mind?
Nothing I can come think of. The only thing that's been really difficult with me has been the Medicaid. And
let's talk about that a little bit.
It seems like every year they have to re-up. And she has this life insurance that's a joke, but she has it, and because she has it, the Medicare, the state wants to know what this value of the face value. Got it. But they want to know it every year. So you have to query the people that give you the information. And if you don't have the proper
documentation
to say that you can speak in behalf of your care person that you're giving.
Well, that's a great point, right? And
it becomes frustrating. That's been the biggest hurdle that I've had. And I've had to hire a lawyer, get him to do it, So every year it's another challenge for me in Medicaid.
Right. So there's a cost associated with that. There's time associated with that. And on stress. A regular basis, the stress associated with that, and the impact potentially to her coverage, really. It's interesting that you say that, because we will touch on some of the financial challenges in another session, another episode, and how people are struggling through that. Because I was interviewing someone or talking to someone who told me about something called bed and board divorce that sometimes people have to do just to be able to make sure financially they're able to continue to be whole. And so that's a very real challenge out there, and one that needs some work. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. We appreciate your time, and we hope to see you around or out there sometime soon. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this channel. If you're a caregiver out there, you are not alone. We want to hear your story. Submit your story at RachealFosu.com. Thank you for watching.